This episode might just save your family business. I'm Luke Hansen-MacDonald, and I work in a family office that does a lot of work in private equity. As a result, I've been fortunate to see lots of small, medium-sized businesses across Canada and in the US, and there is a common challenge that they face. It is succession. The next generation either is not interested or they're not prepared to take over the family business. In a recent Deloitte study, between the current generation and the next generation, there was a 40% drop of how many people were participating in the family business. In other words, those family members were going to other places for their careers. And now there's a lot of theories as to why succession is such a giant problem for businesses today. And this is not just in North America, this is around the world. But I have my own theory. It's something that I've built after speaking to many different family business advisors and members of other family businesses, and I've spent endless amounts of time thinking about it for myself personally. My theory is that the next generation has to make their own mark on the family business for it to be successful. All right, this is Beyond the Family Business podcast. Let's jump into it. So why do I actually believe this? Well, first of all, it's informed by my own experience in my family business and the day-to-day struggle I have, figuring out how do I find my own purpose. The other part is it's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or more specifically, self-actualization. If you're not familiar with this concept, it's basically that for a person to be happy, they need to figure out how to fulfill their potential. Or as Maslow put it, what one can be, one must be. This means that you need to be able to have your own voice, your own morals. You need to be able to flex your creativity and choose your own path. It may seem like an oxymoron that going into your family business can actually be the way you fulfill your potential, but there are many people in the world who take a path that's somewhat expected of them and still figure out a way to make it very enriching. The key is that the older generation and the younger generation have to intentionally work together to make this possible. That's what we're going to talk about today. So one major constraint on self-actualization in family business is that the next generation does not contribute to the vision or the future strategy of the family business for one of two reasons. The first is that, the group that's in charge or the person in charge, whether it's a patriarch, matriarch, or a family council, that group has done things one way for many decades and it's worked. And they don't want to see that change. It could be because they want to maintain their own legacy, or it could be because they don't trust the next generation. The other reason is that the next generation doesn't want to make that change themselves. This is often because it seems safer to just stay the same. I've definitely felt that temptation, just to put things in autopilot, but unfortunately it doesn't work. And, there is a lot of risk to sticking your neck out there, especially in front of your family or your colleagues, and suggesting a new path, because if it doesn't work, that can all come back on you personally. A great example is Polaroid. Edwin Land was the co-founder and was the CEO of the business for many years. He was in the business for nearly 50 years before he eventually left. And in the early years, it was very helpful to have him around. He was a key part of the creativity of the business, but ultimately overstayed his tenure and didn't allow for other innovative leaders to come into the business and take them in new directions. His last few products really started to fail, and ultimately the business filed for bankruptcy in the 2000s. So this is just a good example of how somebody who can be a key part of the success over time can actually become a huge drag on the ability to innovate and go in new directions. So the solution to this issue is embracing a culture of creative destruction. If you don't know what creative destruction is, it's the theory that you need to destroy what came before in order to innovate new, better ways to drive value with your customers. It's a common problem in the technology world, is that creative destruction is required for the next big thing to come. Think Blockbuster to Netflix. And the problem is, if you don't drive this creativity internally, then it's going to happen externally and wipe you out as a business. And it's not just about the family leadership driving this. You need to inspire your team to, focus on innovation. You need to show them they have the latitude to go out there and try new things. And the big risk is that if you have family members who have a very secure position in the business, a lot of latitude to take on risk, but they are keeping their heads down and trying to keep everything status quo, non-family members who, may feel more vulnerable as far as their safety and their role, they're going to look at the family members and say, well, they're not sticking their neck out. I'm certainly not going to do that myself. And they'll keep it status quo as well. And that can be a fatal flaw. A great example of creative destruction in a family business is from my interview with Ross McNeil. He's the CEO and owner of Duggar's Menswear. When he was a young man, he was working for his father in their menswear company, and they were on the brink of collapse. The strategy his dad had used in the early days, which worked, had become stale and was no longer working. So Ross bet everything financially and emotionally on taking the business in a new direction. He focused on luxury menswear, and the business is still successful many decades later because of that leadership decision. Now, if his father had never allowed him to have that latitude, Duggar's would be a thing of the past. So how do you encourage diversity of thought? Well, if you're the group that's in charge, the matriarch or patriarch, you need to ensure that it is clear communication to the next generation that not only will you not punish if people have different perspectives than you do, but you actually demand it. Now, you probably want to create a, confidential forum to have these discussions, maybe at a family board level or in one-on-one discussions with family members, because you don't want people to start throwing out ideas to management. But regardless, you want to create an environment and a culture with your own family that encourages them to speak truthfully about their own perspectives, and let them know that you're going to be giving honest feedback on whether the idea is something you agree with or do not. The important thing is that you foster that open and objective discussion. Now, how do you encourage diversity of thought if you're in the next generation? Well, you need to take accountability for building your own informed perspective. Working outside of the family business is a great way to do this. My interview with Adar Shah, he spoke about the importance of working in the Monitor Group, the famous consulting group. But, like in my interview with Anthony Broccolini, him and his family members have only ever worked in the family business. So this isn't the only path. Another option is to look at executive education. This is something I do personally every year. It's an excellent way to expand your horizons of, different areas you may not normally touch. It's very efficient time-wise, and you get to build an interesting network of other professionals that are also looking to learn new things. Similarly, you can look to join different types of networking groups. This could be like YPO, EO, tech. There's many different ones. Some are regional, some are national or international. I'm part of YPO, and I find it incredibly valuable. It's a confidential forum for me to be able to share my own journey and learn from others that have done it differently than me. And last, and probably most important, is that you need to seek out honest feedback, whether it's from your family or from your colleagues. You need to figure out a way how you're going to get feedback on your performance so you can continuously improve and add value to your family business. So in conclusion, you need to encourage creativity and people's own voices and perspectives in order to help them self-actualize. Now, the second major issue that blocks self-actualization in the family business is that the next generation often lacks the same passion for the family business that founding generation had. This is for obvious reasons. It's not their baby. They didn't create it from scratch. Their self-esteem and pride may not be as entangled in it. And, in fact, it may be more of a burden to them. Even if you think about it from the outside perspective, if you're a founder of a successful business, you're applauded. If you're the next generation who stepped in, you're often seen as somebody who's just benefited from nepotism. So it's very real that there is a burden there. The solution to this lack of passion with the next generation is encouraging family to participate in their own way. in the way that they feel they can be successful. Because if they feel they can be successful, then they're actually going to stick around and they're actually going to build that loyalty and that attachment to the family business. And more importantly, it will allow them to actually contribute meaningfully. And, contributing meaningfully will earn the respect of their family members and of their colleagues, which again, just reinforces their desire to stay in the family business. A great example of this is Leslie Bishop. Early in life, she actually worked outside of the family business, working in PR, communications, and investor relations, as well being a stay-at-home mother with her children. Later in life, Leslie decided to become more active on her family council. And when the opportunity to take on the role for chair of that family council came up, she jumped at it. Many other family members saw this as a burden to take on this type of a position, but because of her unique background working in investor relations and communication, she was perfect to help unify and engage the family. They were shocked at her skills and saw her in a whole new light. I know that it was hugely gratifying for her, and the family greatly appreciated it too. So, how do you actually encourage that next generation to foster their passion? Well, if you're part of the group in charge, so part of that generation, you need to change your perspective on how people may contribute. It won't be the same way that you necessarily did. Maybe you were strong at finance or operations, and maybe they'll come into other functions like marketing or sales. Or it may not be in the day-to-day operations of the business at all. It could be at a family board level, or it could be, on your community giving side. There's many different ways to contribute. And the most important thing is that you create an opportunity for positive reinforcement. This is a concept from the book Atomic Habits, where basically humans are more likely to stick with something if there's a positive feedback loop in the short term. If you feel like you're constantly being thrown into the deep end, where you have a mismatch of skills for what's expected of you, you're going to want to go somewhere else because it's only negative feedback coming your way. Whereas if you can contribute meaningfully, you earn that respect from your peers, you're going to see that as positive feedback and you're going to want to keep sticking around. And the last piece of advice I will give on making your own mark is for the next generation. And this is respect your family legacy. While I'm saying you need to make your own mark, you don't need to blow everything up. In fact, you've been part of a family business that's been successful long before you were part of it for a good reason. There's a lot you can learn from the people that came before you, whether that's family members or people that work in your family business or other partners. Mentorship works really well. And if you're lucky enough to have access to, incredible leaders, whether they're part of your family or not, take that opportunity. Many of my best mentors were people who worked in our family business, and I was lucky enough to have a front seat to their own genius. And last, it's a great way to bond with your family members. When you're young, it's easy to think your parents are stupid, but getting to work in a family business teaches you a whole new perspective on them. And I can say some of the most enriching times in my life have when I've got to work shoulder to shoulder with other members of my family. So in conclusion, if you want the next generation to be engaged in the family business, they need to be able to fulfill their own potential and do things on their own terms. That doesn't mean you can't have oversight and guidance, but it means that there has to be a collaboration between the older and younger generation that is focused on enabling self-actualization. I can certainly say from my own perspective, this is not a destination you get to in the short term. It's an ongoing process, and I battle with it every day trying to find my own purpose. I hope this was helpful. This is Beyond the Family Business Podcast. Please like and subscribe. Take care.